Well, my friends, our 5-week journey through this 6th chapter of John's Gospel is coming to an end. It began with that well-known miracle of the loaves and the fishes, showing us both the compassion and the power of Jesus. Our journey continued through 3 weeks of Jesus using some rather confusing imagery, describing himself as the bread of life, and shocking his disciples by telling them and us that they needed to eat his flesh and drink his blood, or they wouldn't have life within them. And so it concludes today with his disciples almost certainly thinking, for lack of a better phrase, what in the world is Jesus talking about? And for some of them, it had become simply too much. Too puzzling, too strange, too demanding. And as we're told, in the end, many of his disciples returned to their former way of life and no longer accompanied him, no longer followed him. How could that happen? Had they not heard the enlightening parables that Jesus had told? Had they not seen his incredible power over nature? Had they not seen him heal others in a miraculous way? Had they not heard all the wise things he said time and time again? How could they leave him? We would never have done that. Isn't that true, my friends? We wouldn't have left him. But are we so sure about that? Are we so sure about that? You know, one could argue that not only would we have done the same thing 2,000 years ago, but we're actually doing the same thing right now in this time and place. Of course, we often do not believe that we have walked away from Jesus. Do not believe we failed to really accept all of his teachings. Do not believe we continually return to our former way of life. Rather, we sometimes fool ourselves into believing that our presence here week after week after week assures us that we are still buying all of what Jesus is selling. But aren't we returning to our former way of life every time we yell at our loved ones, then apologize and say we'll do better, only to yell at them again half hour later? Are we returning to our former way of life every time we come to church and we promise to forgive someone who has wronged us, yet wake up tomorrow carrying the same grudge? Are we returning to our former way of life every time we say to ourselves, to others, to God, or to a priest in the confessional that we sincerely want to stop all the bad stuff, stop gossiping, stop putting people down, being impatient, judging people unfairly, stealing things from work, cheating on our taxes, cheating on our spouses. But somehow we do not make it through one day before falling into the same pattern of behavior. Sometimes we do not even make it out of the parking lot, or in my case, back into the rectory, before embracing the same old faults, the same old patterns, the same old me. Yes, every time we wake up the exact same person that we were the day before, in a sense, we're returning to our old selves, no longer accompanying Jesus, no longer following him. Jesus, who wants nothing more than for us to embrace a new way of seeing, a new way of acting, a new way of being. You see, my friends, serving the Lord, as we heard Joshua and his household pledge to do in today's first reading, serving the Lord is not just believing the right things. That's the easy part. That's the easy part. It's also about doing the right things, embracing the new life promised to us and made possible for us by the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Yes, doing the right things is not always easy. We all know that. And so there is a temptation to echo the words of some disciples who struggled with what they heard from the mouth of Jesus. This saying is too hard. Who can accept it? Love your enemies. Go the extra mile. Give your extra cloak away. Forgive 70 times 7. Turn the other cheek. Yes, my friends, what Jesus asks of us is difficult. Really difficult. But we do not have to do it alone. Jesus will always accompany us, strengthen us, pick us up, and most importantly, if we allow him, he will transform us into the beautiful person each one of us was created to be. The kind of person who, with all honesty, is able to say, Master, to whom shall I go? You have the words of eternal life. And so, my friends, let's truly take to heart what we have heard over these past 5 weeks. Words from the mouth of Jesus encouraging us to believe in the miracle that takes place at this Eucharistic table. But much more than that, let's make sure we also believe, trust in, and are open to what this sacred meal is meant to bring about. And what is that? Some may ask. We are to become whom we eat. We are to become whom we eat. And for most of us, maybe all of us, that sure was not the person we were yesterday. So let's never return to our former way of life, but rather let us wake up each day a little closer to being the beloved child of God that we were created to be. The beloved child of God that Jesus wants us to be.